Not yet. This is Van Electric Ghost. We are live on my Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch channels with Insidia. And we've had him on the show before. He was part of the Peg Bedroom Festival back in July. And we're glad to have you on. You're going to be talking about some new projects and new stuff you're working on. And some like history about like why you might have disappeared off the web for a little bit. And yeah, we're going to talk about whatever you want to start first. Do you want to talk about what was going on this year, or you want to get into the single, the pre-save, EP, all that stuff?
I will open up by saying that I am not Insidia. I'm Kyle from Insidia. Insidia is me and Emily, who's not here. She's invisible. We'll imagine she's here. The festival that we played at, it was really great. I think there was loads of really talented artists on, and it was just a great way, to get back into it. We hadn't, well, I personally hadn't done it for a while, but Emily, she sort of joined this project in January.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, she's been brilliant so far. I think you interviewed her recently.
Yeah, I did a separate interview for her.
Yeah,
and we were gonna try to have her do like a solo performance as well at some point.
Yeah. She messaged me about it. She was like, Kyle. I was like, yes, Emily. She was like, well, what do I say about when the EP's coming out? I mean, you say nothing, Emily. You say nothing. And she was just like, why? And I was like, because I don't even know. But we did a little, like, if we can talk about the EP first, for sure.
Yeah, because that's like the latest thing. But you got to pre-save first. Do you want to talk about the single?
The Cartoonist.
The single, right?
The Cartoonist. Yeah, the Cartoonist is so. It's a long story. It's better in going off about why I was absent for a while. To be fair.
Yeah.
But basically, what happened was we had it was I was sort of going a bit full screen, full on for a while, and something basically happened, and it wasn't very good. What basically happened was my dad passed away during the first lockdown, and it was just before me and Regina Faye put out Dior, which we both had big plans for. We were both doing a paid social media marketing campaign for it, and I believe I put in something like 400, 450. I don't know what Regina put in, but we planned out a marketing campaign, we put it out, and what basically happened was, so far through the planning for that, my dad passed away, and it dawned upon me that I was going to need to take some time out. So we got the music out, and we finished off the marketing campaign, and frankly, within its first week, it did numbers that because the week that it came out was the week of my father's funeral. And the week that it came out, it did help cushion the blow a bit, because I was just full on me off me nut on dopamine from it, and then it's just kind of went a bit downwards. But luckily, the single after that was Colours, which I actually wrote way before and recorded way before. I was just saving it, and I popped that out afterwards, did the marketing for that. But after that, I figured, right, I'm going to take some time to myself, because if I don't take some time to confront what's happened, I'm never going to do it. And by the time I do get around to confronting it, I'm going to be far worse than I will be now.
Yeah, I think it's always hard to handle like my dad passed away in 2017. It was actually just before I started a project, and I had no idea what I was going to do. And after he passed away, it gave me a lot of like emotional content, and I ended up meeting this individual in Los Angeles through the net, and we proceeded to get into a really interesting, project. That we and then what happened is, like, in the middle of that project, some people in her life passed away. So it was like, it started with my dad passing away, and then she had like an aunt pass away, and it was like, wow, this thing is like life is getting in the way of everything.
I mean, I understand that.
Yeah,
it's like for me, it's been like more than over a year. Like, don't know, like, but how I looked at it was there were points where I was sat in a car with my mate, and we were going to the gym in, I think it was April this year, and I was going to the gym with them. We just opened up, and first day we were like, "Oh, we'll go to the gym." I mean, you can't see it on me, but I have made some improvements. But and one of them turned around and said, "What's going on with Insidia?" I was just like, "I don't know." And just, well, I thought you had something there, to be honest. And it was the first time it had really, like,
hit your head that maybe you should get back into it.
Maybe I should get back into it. And well, I think we have something special, guy. And I was like, no, I love your stuff. Genuinely, I'm not even speaking as your friend. I love your stuff. And I was like, right, well, you know what? I'm going to sit and think about it. And it took me a while to think about it. And I thought, what were it? Like, I'd encountered Emily before, because the person that's doing cinematography for our future stuff is the person that put me on to Emily. Now, I'd tried with other singers, and it just never worked. They all wanted to do different things. We had one that, like, thought that when I asked them to be the singer for the project, that it was just to do backing vocals. It was like, no, I didn't ask you to just do backing vocals. And the other one, it was like more that they didn't think it was going to work. I don't think that they were used to working with another artist on a project. So I ended up getting really frustrated, and then but also really motivated. Because I was thinking, like, right, people like this stuff. And my daddy was a drummer, really good drummer. He did all Neil Peart sort of rough stuff. And I think the decisive moment for me was I got blackout fucking wasted, pardon my language, one night. And I just thought, well, my dad loved Into Infinity. Would he want to see me quit? And if he loved Into Infinity and he was a harsh critic, I can probably go on to do instrumental stuff and do well from that, which I was doing before, in my opinion. So I started out like just wiping away these songs, these instrumentals that are coming up soon. Cartoonist being the third one that I wrote. And then I wrote Meteors first, then Burr, which is actually the nickname that my dad got from his friends. I wrote that third, and then I wrote Skinwalker fourth. And I'm really proud of how they've all gone.
So those are all songs that are going to be on the EP?
Well, they were all. See, the thing is about EP is it guts me to say it, but it's not coming out as an EP. I mean, I'd love to have it. But the thing is, the EP was meant to be 5 tracks, and it's been whittled down to 4. And that's because, unfortunately, the MacBook that had all the stuff that was pre-production on it got robbed. And all we've got left is like 2 minutes of Skinwalker, which was shaping up to be one of my favourite. We've got the masters of Cartoonist, Meteors, and Burr. Mm-hmm. And then there was a 5th track that I was messing about with, but it never really came forward. You know, I was struggling with it, and you know what it's like. Sometimes you have a song that comes together in seconds, then you've got another song that takes weeks and weeks, sometimes even a year to get together.
Yeah. There's some songs that you work on, and you're like, I got a whole album in 2017 that I put on the shelf. It's got like, and I think it's got some of like my best songs called Dark Ghost. And I was even going to put it on vinyl, but it was all about this relationship I had with this person I had met after my dad died. And we went and did an album, and then we broke up. And then I went and did Dark Ghost. And I thought Dark Ghost I still think it's great, but then it's like, it's maybe too personal, and maybe it's too much about her. And then, so it's like, I just put it on the shelf and it never came out. And it's like, it's really good. And I'm like, and it's like, I want to put it out, but then I'm like, I don't want to get her mad at me. So I'm like, so I think, I don't know if I should put it up.
I get what you mean. It's like, I've got something that's like that, but for me, like looking at it from the perspective of, like, say, the single that's coming out, The Cartoonist, and I know that they're watching right now, because I sent them the link. What was it? I wrote Meteors first, and I think that Meteors and Burr are the most emotionally charged of these tracks that are coming out. Like, Burr is not as like dark as Meteors, but then you listen to The Cartoonist, and there's a drastic change in mood. And it was because I basically met someone, I started talking to him, and thank God it's still going well. You know, I'm scheduled to be seeing them soon. They're probably like giggling with excitement right now. But, was it? Yeah, I was like, I wrote The Cartoonist more, and what it was we watched like stuff like Hotel Transylvania, and then my free time I was watching animated movies, and I thought, well, right, you know, I'm gonna write something that's more, you know, cartoony, like Danny Elfman, if you know what I mean.
So is it Danny Elfman? It's like Oingo Boingo, or is it Danny Elfman like cinematic?
Yeah, Danny Elfman cinematic.
Yeah.
Well, like, you know, you've got the Batman Forever, so
like the Batman card, like our over the top cartoony Batman stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So, like Toy Story and what were it? All Dogs Live Forever. If you've ever seen that.
Yeah, he did the Nightmare Before Elm Street and stuff like that too.
Yeah, like stuff like that, and I was thinking of that, and I channeled that into the compositions, and I'm really proud of how it come out. I can't wait for people to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well, I pre-saved it. I
mine.
pre-saved it, and I got the link on here. So when people watch this, there's a link for that pre-save for a cartoonist. So
Awesome.
Click on it.
I mean,
actually click on it. When it goes onto YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, you'll be able to click on it. So.
Oh, good. I want to say. I think my personal favorite. I mean, there's a bump in the quality of the strings. But it's obviously not quite there yet. But on the future stuff, I've got there now.
How did you do that bump? How do you increase the quality of the strings?
How do you increase the quality of the strings? Right. So here's my secret. It depends on what you want. So, for example, if you've got something like I have, I've got Spitfires Albion Neo, which is a very, very full sort of sampling tool, but it's also got its list with EDNA, which is like, I don't really know quite what it is, but it's. Give me a second to formulate it into words. So the first thing is to get a bump in realism, you need to figure out, the range of the orchestra and how an orchestra actually works. It's a living, breathing organism in its own sense. So how I would mix it, and I don't know how it comes across to our viewers, is so cellos this side. Your cellos here. You'd have your flute, and you'd have your piano here, and then you'd have your brass.
Oh, you
and everything there.
Oh, so like
it's like a little.
Yeah.
Like a little
There's a certain range that
yeah. So, for example, your cello.
So it's the range of the sound.
Your cello can play within the a bit within the range of your violins, specifically your second violin. But your first violins, you want them higher than your second violins, and you want them on that side. So if I'm listening, I want it my left ear on violins, and I want my cello
with the stereo.
Yeah.
So you're playing with the stereo panning, and you're playing with the first and the second. Groups. Like I was like a first clarinet. I was a first clarinet, like in an orchestra.
And then you want something like this.
First clarinet, second. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. What's that?
You want something like this that you can plug in.
Yeah, it's a plug-in MIDI controller.
And you want to be able to toggle your you want to find something like dynamics there.
Yeah.
The bottle there.
Yeah, that's cool.
Expression, reverb, and just.
Oh, that's nice.
Expression is more like your volume within the volume. And then you want
like when I'm using my Moog.
And when a note,
when you're using an analog synth, yeah, it's like the same thing. You got to use the dynamics.
When a note's dying down, like if you ever a real orchestra playing, when a note's gonna stop, they don't stop abruptly. They sort of die down the dynamics. It gets softer and then
yeah. It's kind of like when people try to explain, like if you try to do horns on a synth, but you don't know anything about breathing, you don't know anything about using the reed, right? Like so, then you would do something that a horn player can't do, right? The whole thing about being a sax player or a flute player is that you have a limitation of your breath.
Yeah, it's the respiratory.
So if you just keep on playing the synth for the flute and you don't consider the fact that there's a breathing and there's all kinds of dynamics that you do as a wind instrument, and you ignore that, then you're not going to capture that. So I get it with like a string. You kind of have to understand how the violinist and the cellist how they all work, right? And so then if
It's
you
took a
understand
lot
that,
of
then you can actually
research.
replicate it. Yeah, I
And
get it.
I mean, like one of my favorite composers is Hans Zimmer. It's
Zimmer's
cliche,
awesome.
but I also love Stravinsky.
Well, he did
And
awesome stuff with the CS80, and the Roland System 100s. How he actually used those in his cinematic work. He has like really interesting techniques on the Yamaha CS80, which is a real like foundational synthesizer, and also the Roland System 100s. He used to chain them together and use them in like a John Carpenter. Him and John Carpenter are like really synth freaks, and they can use synthesizers for all kinds of interesting cinematic orchestral effects. And he's, if you're a synthesist, you study like Eno, you study Zimmer, you study, John Carpenter, the guys from Funkadelic and Stevie Wonder. I mean, there's all these people that you look at that to kind of get an idea, and then you do what you're gonna do. But I understand what you're saying.
yeah, I mean, like, what is it? I look at, obviously, I've got a lot of books that I can read, and I've got thingies, but if people really are interested in doing like MIDI orchestration, I'd recommend this
That's
book.
cool. That's awesome. That's awesome.
And then,
yeah, I've heard about that.
because I personally believe that reading increases the creases on your brain.
Oh yeah. I always like to do, my reading and then my listening, and I got this massive library of all these great, classic records, and I was listening to like Blondie, and then I was listening to like Joy Division, and then I went back and I listened to a bunch of old Bowie with a lot of Brian Eno experiments, like his Berlin stuff. And I was listening to the deeper cuts, the ones that nobody listens to, right? And at least unless you're a critic. And so that's the stuff where I find the magic, because I think it's the deeper stuff on somebody's record, like the deep tracks that aren't singles, that to me are always the really interesting pieces of work that I get like a lot of techniques. I'll pick up things, and like, not that I'm gonna clone it, but it's like I want to see what Eno was really getting into, right? And so I'm like, yeah, that's what I want. I want to.
Well, it's like when I was. When I was in music college, we had a brilliant music tutor for composition called Neil. Shout out Neil if he sees this, but Neil Anderton, he was called, and he would teach us my orchestral composition is nothing compared to this. I'm gonna just say it now. But he would teach us canon, teach us how to write counterpoint. It was all really practical, his lessons. He teaches modal modulation, chord substitution, all this fucking
Yeah, heavy stuff.
And it was just all over. And I mean, I drawed on a lot of it for Cartoonist, because I was starting to feel my groove a bit more. Like, this was, like I said, the last track out of the three that are completed that I did. So this one's got a lot of Alberti bass, specifically if you've heard the sneak peek that I put out yesterday. The piano is doing all the Bertie bass, and the strings are harmonizing via Bertie bass. And then later on, the piano goes off into its own little solo, while the strings continue the Bertie bass. Flute, as I'm sure you heard, it's like stoppy and starty, but in a realistic way to emulate the human voice.
Like a real, like somebody would really do it,
Yeah, and that's I think
that like is like, you get so many people.
Go on.
But I was saying that some people they a lot of things today people don't know where to leave the space in the music. Right.
Well, it's because
there's a lot of people that they jump on the DAWs and they just have like so much going on. There's no space. You know.
I mean, the thing is, I've listened to a lot of mock scores. I agree with you. A lot of people. I've listened to a lot of mock scores, specifically on Submit Hub, because I'll go on to the ambient and the orchestral section, and like it's like I found Regina through Submit Hub. I don't know how she found you. Maybe she found you through Submit Hub. I don't know.
I found her. I found her. I think on Instagram, like I always do.
Oh well, well you found me on there. I found her through Submit Hub, and I found a lot of people
liked something. She liked.
And you go into their hot or not section, and I am such a critic. I'll be there going. The flute. Your flutist, he's not stopping for a fucking breath. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because you can't. You don't have endless breath. You know, a keyboard has endless like playing, right? But
and this is very clean for keyboardists.
Yeah, but then they forget that the point, like if you get into Prince, like or funk, it's the funky breaks. It's the space, right? If you listen to, it's where you don't play. It's where you don't play.
It's like, for example, me. Let's say I'm a guitarist and I try and do something like what? That for me, it requires tapping.
Mm-hmm.
And it requires, use of all the fingers pretty much. If I went like, that's fair enough for me, but there's still a bit of sloppiness there. Whereas a keyboardist, even a beginner of a like on a keyboard, he could play that much more ease, much more cleanly.
Yeah, and then you might throw the bass hand in, and you might make it too cluttered, you know. So the whole key is like a lot of times you gotta know, like when not to overdo it, when not to go and do like a wall of sound, because a lot of times today I think with the DAW people go and they try to do these massive walls of sound, right? And then there's maybe too much going on, right? And so there's too much going on, and then you're not emphasizing like the real hook. Because you put so much on it that you buried it. And my whole thing is that you listen to old James Brown, or you listen to like Johnny Cash, or you listen to old Dylan. The cool thing about it is the space and not put too much on. You know, that's where you get the brilliance is like
it's like one of my favorite, and I mean absolute favorite pieces of film score is a piece of music called Vesper's Theme from Casino Royale. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah, I've seen that movie like 10 times. I love that movie.
It's a great movie. But it's the use of the sort of theme, and he brings it back constantly. Specifically, now spoilers for anyone Royal. But if you haven't, you should. And what are you doing with your life? But the bit when
I think he's the best Bond. I like him better than even Sean Connery. You know, Sean.
He's the most book accurate.
But he actually does it in a way that I like it because he makes it serious. And he makes it. He brings like a depth to the character that wasn't there before. Like he's wounded. The character is wounded. He's got a lot of problems, but then he's like really pushing, and that I just like the dynamic. The dynamic.
I mean, we are veering a little bit off topic. I read the book like when I was younger. and the Bond portrayed in those books is Daniel Craig's Bond. He's an alcoholic.
Yeah, so he actually read the books.
He's an alcoholic.
He read the books.
Yeah. He's an alcoholic. He's he's a womanizer. He's a misogynist. But he is for a reason. That's because Vesper portrayed him, and then Vesper in the book, she dies and he's just nothing about it. But in the film, I like how they changed it and they made it tragic with that.
Yeah, they made it have a deeper impact. It made it have a tragic impact.
They made it more of a suicide.
Yeah, but it's interesting, like you said, the way the theme is repeated for emphasis in different scenes.
Yeah, it's a really good composition trick because he has the violin on this side and then he has the cello on that side, and they both go. One of them goes into flautland. I think it's the violin goes into harmonics, and then the cello goes into falsetto on this side. When you listen to it. And then you have the piano go, dun, 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 which is her main theme, her main motive. And it's just like, that hurts.
Yeah, I like it when you listen to things, like, well, I was listening to 2001 Space Odyssey, and I loved how that comes in, the way they emphasize it. And there's a lot of silence in that. It's like a silent film. Yeah, if you listen. If you watch Space Odyssey, it's like a lot of the film is like a silent movie, and the music has the most impact because it's like nothing being said for like a long time in that movie. It's like an old silent film. It's just all done with the music and the acting. But so I'm a big fan. I actually been watching a lot of silent films just because there's so much.
The music's really emotive.
Yeah, it's super important. And then it's like the eyes of the actors, right? So you watch the facial movement in the eyes of the actors in the silent movies, and it's so coarse. Like that stuff, you should those techniques should be brought back for like music videos, because there's a lot you could do with the way those directors did. And I was just looking at it, and I said, whoa, I got some ideas. If I work with a director on stuff for the Ghost, it's like I want you to watch these silent films and come up with something that's like that, because I think
for example,
that's very emotive of what I want to do.
Have you seen the Martin Scorsese remake of Cape Fear?
Yeah, that movie's awesome. Well, I love De Niro.
The last 20 minutes get a bit silly for me, but the score is iconic, and a lot of people don't even know they've heard it.
Yeah, I've heard it. I mean, I watched that like 10 times. I mean, I watched Scorsese movies over and over just to get the impact of what he's doing visually. Because usually the first time I miss a bunch of things. Every time I watch it, I miss something. Every time I watch it, I see something else. When you see a good, like Coppola and Scorsese, like when you watch their movies, you suddenly start diving into stuff. It's like, wow. There's so much stuff going on that if you don't, you got to watch it over and over just to pick up the subtleties that are in it, along with the use of music. Because Scorsese uses music, in a really interesting way. He loves like using Stones music and, soul tracks and for like impact on certain scenes. It's just really interesting how he uses it. But I love all types of music, but cinematic stuff is pretty cool, because I think it's like the surrealism that's happening sometimes in some film is a lot of what I like to do with the ghost ideas, are all telling stories anyway. Everything I do is about storytelling. But I think every artist, like everything you're doing, you're telling a story. I think every artist tells a story in their song, unless you're doing a beat focused song. But I think even those songs might tell a story.
I mean, you can have a beat focused song, no? Like, I don't know if you've recently I've been into Eminem, and I love his lyric. I think, I know it can be very rap, like but there's tracks like
rap music is it does have a focus. I mean, I think rap and hip hop actually do tell stories, and then you have the ability to have a beat. I think more like party music that's kind of just like dancing, like just go to a club and dance. Sometimes those songs don't really say that much, but hip
Yeah.
hop songs that have a beat that you could also dance to can say
Well,
like as much as a Dylan song.
It's like I've been listening to a lot of like Tupac, and it sounds crazy for me to say that I've been listening to a lot of Tupac. But like, there's been moments where I've
There's a
listened
lot
to
of
like
cool
where
songs.
he's putting. It's like he's got lines where he's putting them, and they go on other. He could have put it on the line before, and it wouldn't have meant as much. But where he's put it is perfect. Let's say it's a sad line, or it's got implied sadness in it. If you put on the line before, you wouldn't notice it. But because he's put it where he's put it, it brings it out. And it's good. That's actually hit me. I don't know how he's done it, but he's really like it goes beyond.
Well, I think like when I think about
popping it down.
I think
on
Sweatshirt
minor chord. It goes more to this slice, structured this perfectly.
Yeah, I think Tupac, he had the word placement and the construction. That's a lot in hip hop. Hip hop is all about song craft or lyric craft. It's more like spoken word lyric craft. It's got a lot. Like if you listen to like Johnny Cash or yeah, I mean it's a lot like what Johnny Cash and Dylan used to do. The wordplay is so important to the song more than like it being a perfect pitched vocal. It's the structure of the lyrics and integrated into the song, And then Cash had this kind of railroad train thing going on. Then the way he emphasized that train, like if you listen to like any of his songs, like Folsom Prison, or all these songs, that he would get into these songs and have this really unique beat. And it wasn't about that he had the greatest voice or vocally, but the impact of his voice and how he placed those lyrics. It's like the way Tupac does it, like Dylan does it, and even a guy like today, like Earl Sweatshirt. Earl Sweatshirt, like his work is kind of defined by like extreme melancholy. It's like super melancholy.
It's a bit like Insidia, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so.
I would say, what was it with Johnny Cash? I can't listen to a lot of Johnny Cash because Johnny Cash makes my little scorpion over there get very violent.
He gets violent? He gets to be the scorpion
He gets violent. She'll pop out that cage and she'll sting me to death in my sleep. She'll take my eyes.
So are you saying that that your EP, you're not putting out the EP, or you are going to put out the EP? I'm kind of confused.
I know there's a lot of confusion over what's going on with this project, and believe me, I get confused. But basically, what's happening is there was an EP that I was working on around this time this year to start rolling out. And it was an instrumental EP in the style like Into Infinity, Colours, That's the one that's been affected.
Oh, that's the one that's affected. Okay.
Yeah.
You got this new one.
Whereas EP with me and Emily, and I mean, like, you're more than welcome. We're more than welcome to talk about it and the making of it, because, quite frankly, we've nearly finished it. We're very that close.
That's the one. That's the one that's coming out. That's coming out in 2022, right? It's not coming out this year.
No, the album's coming out in 2022 with the old singer. Which it's going to be confusing for people. I understand that much, but I've not paid like over $1,000 to not put it out.
Yeah. So you got a record with an old. For everybody to understand, you got a record with your old singer, and then you got a new project with Emily,
Yeah, and that is we're planning on.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, it's all right.
The old one out first. You're putting the one with the old singer out first.
Yeah,
right?
And then we're putting all the material out with the old singer first. After these instrumentals, and there's going to be new instrumentals made until that album is ready to go. And look, it could take another year. We could get unlucky and put into another lockdown again, but it's not coming out, that album, until there's videos to go with it. Because it's one of those things, we want to push it. And I know the old singer might get angry, but she's getting a 50% royalty split. She's got nothing to be angry about. And well, she's the one that left.
Yeah, well, I know how it is. I got a whole album. I got an album that's on the shelf because I kind of, not that they were on it, but I was inspired by it, so I didn't put it out. But
well, you see, the thing is, it's like, well, for me, when it came to the old singer, I wasn't so much inspired, but I also was. It wasn't like I was thinking of her, but I was thinking, right, I've got a concept album that I've got to write.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got this singer. This singer's good at love songs. This singer's good at this, that, and other. Let's try and subvert expectations a bit. I'll give Rose gets the credit where it's due. She's really talented. She's got a lovely vocal tone, and it sounds really innocent.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens if you take something that, like an instant vocal tone that mostly sings about love, and then you turn it into the 5 stages of grief, and you make it dark, and you make it, blackened. And that's what I was interested in.
You're interested in going that direction. Yeah, it's a different type of thing. It's like there's a melancholy in Karen Carpenter's voice, right? I always talk about, like, if you listen to the Carpenters, everybody thinks they're all this pop, this pop duo, but everything she touched ended up having this melancholy that is not like anything else from that time. Like,
exactly,
there are other songs from that time that have this kind of happiness in it, but her stuff has like inherent sadness in everything. And it becomes overpowering. Sometimes you can't listen to it.
I don't know. You can say the same about me. You've not heard this EP in full. Or the album. But oh no, trust me. I don't like to joke about it. There's a common in-joke about this project with the Stuffit Singers, and that is when people listen to this music, and I don't like to. It's not a joke. Don't do this, people, please. But a lot of people have turned around to me, and the pilot's almost like, your aim is to drive the suicide rate up. I'm like, don't.
Yeah,
I'm like, I'm not trying.
No, there's certain musicians that had that kind of vibe, like Bob Mould, in Who's to Do. He had this album called Black Sheets of Rain that was so depressing that you had to if you're feeling bad, don't listen to this record.
Yeah,
because
I'll tell you this now. If you're feeling bad when this album comes out, don't listen to it.
No, because there was a thing about there's certain artists that were so like even Paul Westerberg. He had songs about like jumping off the roof, right? Called this song called like The Ledge, and it was like, okay, Paul, you got a lot of young guys who are like your idol that idolize you, and then you're telling them to jump off the roof. It's like, it's a little much, but I love Paul, and I understand he's kind of pulling this kind of Alex Chilton, Lou Reed thing, and he's going really dark, right? So if you get into really some Lou Reed and Velvet Underground songs, they get really dark. They get really on the edge.
Excuse me a second. I need to fart.
That's okay.
Right. Go on.
We're real. We're real people. That's all real. But yeah, you know what I mean. That I think there's a whole thing in music where there's certain people that will tell you producers, oh you can, you just talk about love. You talk about love, him and her, or her and her, or whatever, and it's just all about being like positive and a certain vibe. But like sometimes you want to go like where Lou went or where
Yeah, well, it's like with Emily. Like, I mean, we talked about album, and I don't want to talk too much about the album. I'd rather like be a surprise. But like with Emily, for example, Emily, as she's mentioned to you, she's very into her folk.
Yeah, folk.
And when we were talking about like the idea of this niche, she came out with this idea of like Greek mythology. I'm not going to tell you which Greek myth it is exactly, but as it's gone on and on, it's sort of deviated from the myth and come back round to the myth and deviated again and come back round, but then skewed itself completely, but then come back round again.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's kind of like the Odyssey and the Iliad, you know. They
well, what is it? We were looking at we looked at it at first, and we were like, we said, right, so we could do Orpheus and Eurydice.
Mm-hmm.
We could do Hercules versus the I forget the giant's name, but the giant would keep reviving him. This is a cut track, by the way. We're not doing it. Don't get your hopes up. But the idea would be that every time Hercules took down the giant and it revived itself and got stronger, we'd change genre. Because we're fucking mental.
No, no, it's kind of like
going. No, until it got to the point where we were just going pure deathcore or something like that, and I was just like, "I'd love to do it."
Progressive, but that's modern. That's modern progressive. It's kind of like, you know, if you think about like what Genesis used to do with Gabriel, you know, in the same album they'd be jumping around, and with different like, you know, you'd have really dirge stuff, and then super fast, you know, rock stuff, and then go back to dirge, go to classical, go here. It's like Yes and all those bands. They just would go all over the map, you know.
Well, I mean, really, if that's the stuff that was scrapped, imagine what made it.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
but you know, like we were thinking, we were thinking of like a nice. Like in my eyes, I see it. Because we're nearly done with it. It will soon be going into final recording stages. Then it's out of our hands. Then we're on to the next. But I'm looking at it now, and I'm like, this is a nice 50-50 split, and I think it will please a lot of people. The people that like all the instrumental stuff, I see it pleasing, and I see it bringing in a new crowd with the other half of it.
Well, I think the cool thing about it is like you're putting together something that's meant to be heard as not just one song, but a collection of songs that are connected. And today that is kind of hard because a lot of people just want to have one song on a Spotify playlist, and that's it's the thing to do. But
it's like I've said to some people. I've said to some people, I want you to get. I want people to because we've got our marketing plan sorted. I'm not going to go into it because that's like a boxer telling his opponent or telling the world his game plan.
Yeah, don't do that.
But, don't do that. But we've got one, and we're confident in it. It's going to cost us, but we're confident, and it's split in two. Because, like I said, this EP is a perfect 50-50 split. But the aim is you'll be drawn in enough by what you're going to hear that you'll go and you'll check it out in full. And then by the time you get to the end of it, you're going to be like, right. I am talking at the edge of the belief, but I'm going to hear it myself. I just seen a comment come up, and I was like, I've got to address that.
What you want to do, you want people to go back and listen to it like they watch.
Well, it's not even that. Yeah, I want them to get through the end of it and go.
You want to get to the end of it.
This has got, on repeat. It's got more depth.
Yeah.
because it's not just one topic we're covering. We're hinting at something else as well, and it's something quite a lot of people have suffer from, and a lot of people know other, people suffer from, because the whole idea, and I'll just let this get really loosely fired off, but the whole idea is, it's memories.
Yep. Well, memories are like a trigger, memories.
But
of other
what could
people.
happen to take away your memories?
Oh, yeah, like the thing that actually come into your life to do that.
Yes. So like, that's only like part of it. So we like, and it's developed really naturally.
Well, I think it's interesting. Like I say, I think of music in terms of like sound paintings. And so, and so I think, like I said, in the way that I like to go back and watch a Scorsese film like 10 times, when I listen to something that speaks to me like a sound novel, I'll go back and try to uncover what's going on with that, right? And just keep on diving into it and diving into it. And I think that's that's the kind of replayability that you get when you put together something that's special. I think that's what you do with albums and EPs. And I think because of the pandemic, people are more willing and maybe have more time to listen to full projects from people. And so I've been getting a lot of engagement on my latest releases where people are listening to like 3-4 songs of the project, which is like that's what I want. And I don't want you just listening to one of them. I want you to listen to all of them. If you listen to 4 of them, that's better. That's the direction I want people to go. So that I'm hoping that's the new trend, that people are willing to stick with an artist and not just bounce all over the map, which is
It's like you said. It's like you said that, like in hip hop, the concept album, the concept album,
works.
it's become quite a staple. Whereas it's left rock.
It's
gone to hip hop.
Left rock. I don't know why.
But I feel like it's not just hip hop's not the only other genre it could have gone to. It's like I listened to something like what was it? Peripheral Vision by Turning Point. It's so clearly a love story.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but you've got to piece it together. Like, I mean, it's the most depressing love story I've ever heard. Put it that way. But it's there, and it's like I listen to stuff like, I don't know if you've heard it, but Eternal Blue by Slipknot. Not Slipknot, Spirit Box. What the fuck? Spirit Box.
I gotta check that out.
It's a good album. It's a really good album. They are definitely going to be the next big thing in metal. But to me, it seems like more of an exploration of, like, I don't know if it's because the singer's like grandmother passed away from Alzheimer's like halfway through recording of it or something, but it's just an underlying sense of melancholy to it, and it's like I like that.
You like? Well, I've always liked that because I listened to the Velvets, I listened to like Liz Phair, I listened to like Juliana Hatfield, like she was in the Blake Babies.
Yeah.
And she's just like an Amherst, Riot Girl, before Riot Girls. And every album she has this kind of melancholy to it. It's about like relationships falling apart. And they always, they're not concepts, but they feel like concepts. Like she just came out with an album this year called Blood. And it's just a concept about things falling apart.
Yeah.
And it's about like, bad romance and bad feelings and hang-ups and breakups. I always kind of go through. I always like gravitating toward artists that have something to say that's not necessarily happy. Like I'm not going to listen to the latest happy track. Not that I like funk, and funk makes me happy, right? So I'll listen to something funky from like a funk band. And I've listened to some modern funk bands out of California. They're doing some really cool jam funk. And it's just like, it's like party stuff. But it's like, it's not 3-minute party stuff. it's like 10-minute party stuff. So
The thing
that's
is,
kind
it's
of
like the thing is, I find that music has two purposes, and that is it's either to make you dance or it's to make you think.
yeah, that's true.
And sometimes when it makes you think, it makes you cry.
I think it's cool when you can merge dance and thinking and get somebody like a Prince, which has always been what I've tried to do. Is have a funky beat or have a more hip hop beat or a funk beat or something that's a little more rocking, but then add progressive and psychedelic and rock elements into it, and then you can actually get some like Sign of the Times type of thing. Like if you think about like, because Sign of the Times is like it's a funk rock record with psychedelia in it, in soul, and that is a weird. Not everybody tries to hit that mix. You get a guy like Curtis Mayfield used to do it with Superfly, so you can get like that funky beat on Superfly. He's like, damn, that's, but that song is saying something. The whole Superfly soundtrack is funky as hell. It's danceable as hell, but it's got amazing guitar, awesome bass, really good horns, and it says something.
Well, I found like that's the same with the recent Churches album.
Yeah, that's a very
It's
good
come
one.
out, especially like he said, she said, stuff like that. It's like it's coated in a very like danceable aesthetic. But like say he said, she said, for example, like I think even the singer came out and said it. But it's about like expectations that are placed on women in society. Like, oh well, keep yourself fed, but keep an eye on your waistline as well.
Yeah, it's
Sort
talking
of
about
thing,
the destructive nature of the net in
Yeah.
relationships. And the thing I like about Churches is they get this new wave beat, and then they have really dense, deep, dark lyrics, but the darkness is not in a.
It's not very upfront. It's very
It's not in a dirge
compact.
beat. It's not like sometimes you do dark albums and it's a dirge beat and it's slow and it's like it's gonna put you to sleep, right? But they do funky, new wave, dynamic beats, but then have really dark content that if you listen to the song at first, you wouldn't know it's dark. But then when you actually uncover the lyrics, you're like, this is dark as hell.
Yeah. Well, it's like what is it? It's like I found like you would say the same about the Smiths.
Yeah, Smiths are like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're like that.
Same as you could also find the same about the Cure in some places.
Yeah, the Cure are like that too.
Like a lot of 80s bands, and that's 80s bands, and that's 80s, 90s, and that's why I say that the Churches they're quite the throwback in that manner.
Yeah, they got that Depeche Mode, Joy Division, New Order kind of like you got a nice dance beat, but you got a really killer lyric that it's deep. It's not just about dancing and having a fun time. There's something going on in what the story's about. If you listen to a lot of New Order songs, they've got this kind of darkness about, death and guns and dark.
It just gets really dark, doesn't it?
Yeah, you're like, what the hell? And it's like there's all this death and there's all this darkness and there's people carrying guns around and people dying and being reincarnated and all kinds of weird stuff. And it's just like, it's not what you would think would be in a dance track. It's not what you think.
It's like I had this idea for a concept album. We're not doing it. I wish we were, but we're not. We're not. We're not. No. Everybody's probably watching this and going, "He's got ideas for another concept album."
Yeah, do it. Get the other side of yourself. It's like, do it.
The idea was it was called Red Circles.
Yeah.
And
but you're not doing it.
It got really messy, really fast. So the idea was it was like pondered up while we were in lockdown. Oh, it's gonna make you go, wow, you had balls to even think about recording this. But the idea was I was reading like in George Orwell.
Mm-hmm.
and obviously surrounded by a global pandemic. And I was listening to lots of low, and I was listening to lots of like really heavy, nasty stuff, really horrible. And I thought, how can I like adapt all these thoughts that I've got into a concept album that's acoustic? And I thought, well, I can't. So I'll add some distorted guitars, but I'll have it as walls of noise around acoustic or synth. And the idea was that it was set in a fascist Britain.
Oh, like a Clash fascist Britain, like what the Clash used to rail about.
Yeah, so like set in a fascist Britain with a disease that's going about, and you can't really identify it because symptoms change all the time. But the main prominent thing is it pops up in red circles on you, hence the name Red Circles.
I think you should go with it. I think
but the thing is, we'll piss a lot of people off.
But then again, what's the point of music without pissing people off? Elvis pissed people off.
But then, what was it? The idea was that the government was lying to people, telling them to go outside. Oh, that's truthful. That the government does lie. But then they were telling people like, go outside, you know, take your life, take your kids' life.
Well, we got people doing that right now in the U.S.
Yeah, exactly. It's happening in Sheffield. People getting stabbed left, right, and centre. Yeah, mad.
We got people that's like, you know, they don't care, like, and they just
hysteria.
They just believe whatever, like, you know, they don't believe they got it. They do, and then if they got it, they think it's fake. You know, everything's fake. It's like everything is like it's very much a very Orwellian. Like we're living in an Animal Farm hybrid 1984 world, where like, you know, like double speak is the rule of the day. that's basically that's pretty much what it is.
The idea that I had though was that I don't know if you've seen have you seen anything like Gemini Home Entertainment?
Oh no, what's that? I don't know.
It's like there's this genre that's come out. It's called analog horror, and it's on all over YouTube. I'll send you some later. You'll like it.
Like a horrorcore type of thing.
It's not music. It's just video. It's a style of presentation.
Like a hacked video, like weird.
It's like you know, like old 80s, 70s sort of videos. So say like there'll be like messages like popping up on YouTube.
So it's all jammed together and cut real close.
Yeah, and it's got analog glitches and all that. Hence the name analog horror. But I was looking at stuff like that. And I thought, well, what if we could have like a music video
like that?
It was like a PSA telling people to go outside.
Oh, you want
to breathe in the air, so you're breathing the infection. And then at the end of the video, it would say something like, "This message will repeat until there are none left to read it."
Well, that sounds like War of the Worlds. Like
so that sort of thing. Really just like really sort of sinister. I think I'd like to go and do it, but I know that Emily's probably watching this right now. She's going.
She's like, maybe not. but like Orson Welles got in
just
trouble.
Thinking, good God,
because Orson Welles got in trouble for doing that radio, making people think the Martians came.
Yeah. Could you imagine if we put out something and it was like, guess what? There's a virus going about and the symptoms change, so it's impossible to identify, but it's 100%.
If you put that on YouTube, you probably have somebody that believes it. You know.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to be responsible for that.
No.
I'll wait until pandemic's over, and then I'll capture Emily and I'll force her to do it.
Well, even if you put a caption that this is a sci-fi story, this is not real, right? You could put that and have it going over it over and over.
Well,
and the way people are today, they would still believe it's real.
Yeah, it's like I've had numerous ideas though, like over lockdown, because obviously when you're in lockdown, all you can think about is the apocalypse.
Well, because it's kind of like it's like a mini one, or it's like a real one. It depends on your level of fear.
Yeah. Well, for me, it weren't so much that. It was just like I'm into like morbid shit. I don't search it out, but like I like my creepy pastas. I like my really creepy like nightmare stories. It's like I told Emily we had a rejected this idea got like if it was up to me, it'd have been accepted.
No,
But I said to Emily,
there's a place for that kind of stuff. Like you listen to like Nine Inch Nails, you listen to Marilyn Manson. I mean, there's this horrorcore. You know, even in like the original Tyler the Creator stuff was all this horrorcore. Like the original mixtapes are very dark. Like the original Earl and Tyler stuff for Odd Future was so dark. It was like some of it was like, you know, you had to get censored because it was really crazy. And you know, and they don't do it now. But you know, sometimes live he'll do some of the old stuff. But it's all about like going around cutting people's heads off and doing like horror. It was so over the
terrible
top.
things to the windpipe.
Yeah,
when the
it was nothing but like horror movie stuff. It's like going to see Creep Show and Halloween and Friday the 13th. You know, and I'm more of like a Hitchcock guy. I like the subtlety in horror. I like the Boris Karloff kind of horror. You know,
I like cosmic.
Yeah, that's what you're into.
Or like deep personal horror.
Or psychological horror. You know, like a
well, stuff like I don't know if you've read it, but this bad boy here.
Ooh, no, I gotta check that out. Send me that. Yeah, send me that.
Yeah, it's that's one of the most depressing books I've ever read.
Well, that'll start my day off, right?
It won't. I see the sarcasm, so I was like, yes, it will.
No, it's sometimes I like to read things that they kind of push it.
Well, you see, it's based. This is an adaptation.
Mm-hmm.
I hope there's no kids watching. But this is like it's drawn. It's a manga.
Oh, it's a
version
manga.
Of it.
Oh, that's cool. I'm into that.
But
I'm a
original
big
book,
comic fan.
The original book was written by someone called Osamu Dazai, and it's like semi-autobiographical, but you know, semi-autobiography.
Yeah.
And it was basically about how, like, him from being a young age, he didn't feel like he really fit in with people. Mm-hmm. Hence the name No Longer Human. And it goes to some really dark places. Like he like as a child he was getting like raped numerous times a day.
Oh wow, that's heavy.
And then like his first love, he tried a double suicide with her. She died. He survived.
Well, there's a lot of guilt.
So it's just everywhere you look at it.
That's
like,
heavy. That's heavy. That's a little too heavy. Well, maybe not too heavy. I can get into stuff because like I still read a lot of manga.
I mean, what's chilling about it is the original novel. Literally, like a week after it came out, critical acclaim is that he actually did take his own life.
Well, that's crazy. That's wow.
Yeah, so it's like when you know that and you're reading through it.
That's kind of like a Joy Division story. Like you're on the edge of being big, and you're Ian Curtis, and he's like, "Well, I can't do that," you know. So you're done, you know. But I think that happens to artists. You know, artists are like they do their breakthrough thing, and right when they're gonna get the most attention, then they can't handle it. You know,
yeah.
So it ends up being like Ian Curtis. It ends up being like other people.
That's like Kurt Cobain.
Yeah, he was on the edge of like super. He was already mega big, but he was getting ready to jump to even mega, right? And he couldn't handle the mega. Mega was already kicking his ass.
You couldn't handle big.
Yeah, like so mega was gonna put him under, and he's like, "Well, I can't handle it," you know, like. And there's a bunch of stories like that in music, where people they just on the edge of breaking through, they just can't handle it. But we are at the like 1 minute, 1 hour, 10 minute, and some of our providers can't go beyond that for distribution. So we'll have to maybe do a part 2.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right,
that's fine.
But
yeah, we can do. We can do another one if you want tomorrow. I think I've got a practice with another project. We can talk about that another time when it's more closer getting there.
Yeah, if you want to do it closer to when it comes out, because it have more impact, we can do that. Because this
that'd be awesome.
Help push your pre-save, and like I said, the pre-save is going to be on the links on the YouTube and Facebook versions of this podcast. So you'll be able to click right through to the pre-save for the Cartoonist. So everybody go and check out the link tree that's there. But
do it. Otherwise, Emily will drink your blood. She'll track you down.
And remember,
I'm not lying. I'm not lying, mate. Like, honestly, I don't know where she is.
Well, that's okay. But we're doing a podcast festival again in February 11th through the 13th. So if you guys are ready at that point, we're going to play again. We're going to do that whole weekend in February, the 11th through the 13th. So if you have the ability to do it, we'd love to get to come back on and do it. We're setting up bands for it already.
It's all depending on if I can get another acoustic guitar.
Yeah, I know. It's hard when you lose your baby. I know about that. I lost my baby one time. It actually didn't get stolen, but it got damaged. I had a Roland that got damaged in a flood. And it was the only one I had. It was back when I was first starting, and it was my mom, for some reason, took my Roland and put it in the damn basement. And I was gone on a trip, and I don't know why she just didn't leave it in my room. I told her, like, leave it in my room. Don't put it in the basement. Then I come back and like, what's going on? Oh, your Roland was in the basement. It's like, why'd you put it in the basement? You know the basement floods. So like $1,000 instrument down the tubes.
That to hurt.
Yeah, I understand the hurt. That hurt me big.
Yeah. See, I'm gonna improve. I'm gonna take a step up on it. But yeah, I'll let you know. We'll confirm at a later date.
Well, we're gonna do it again next year too. I mean, we're doing one in February. We'll probably do another one in July. So maybe by then you'll have your guitar.
We won't be able to do July.
Well, what are you doing in July?
Emily's on holiday.
Oh, well.
I know. I thought the same. I was like, "Oh, we're gonna plan a tour, aren't we?" And she was just like,
"How long is she on holiday?"
In June for 6 months. I was like, "God damn you!"
How long is she gone?
6 months.
She going for 6 months? Starting when?
June, I think.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So if we did it in May, if we did it in May, she could do it in May.
Maybe.
But
that depends on if it's just us, because we'd rather have it so we've got like
material.
Quite, because how I'm thinking of it is, it's like the people that will come to watch are those that have watched before. So I'd want something new for them, and I'd also want the other stuff that we've done before to have it fully kitted out, so it's like almost like a studio.
Well, we're doing the thing, most likely in July. We might miss it. We're doing it in February. We'll probably do it in December too. So we're gonna try to do 3 times next year.
December would be fine, I reckon. I think she'll be back for November.
Okay, yeah. So maybe you'll hit us on the November-December time. So,
yeah, that'd be great. Plus, it gives other artists a chance to shine before we come in and just consider it.
Yeah. Well, you guys did so well. You did really well. A lot of bands played, but you guys had a lot of participation, so that was good from your audience. And so we're happy. We're trying to get some sponsors this time. Cross my fingers. We're trying to get sponsors that actually give bands that play stuff. So so I can't say who, but they would give you like equipment. So that's what I'm working on. So we'll talk to you about it later. And
Yeah, definitely. That'd be great.
Have a good rest of the day. It's like evening time, or what is it now?
It's
Morning.
night time. I'm gonna go watch a film with Squid Game with my girlfriend and beg people to pre-save.
I'm going to get some dinner.
Honestly, I scrumped like a full steak and ale pie, chips and beans like in 5 minutes before I came on here. Don't worry, I'm full.
Alrighty.
Right. See you. You take care. Have a nice night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.